Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bitamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art, located in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is June 7th, 2019, and this is our weekly video. We'll take a look back at last week's eBay auction results, take a look ahead, see what's coming up this coming week. It'll be in the newsletter. There was a lot of good stuff sold over the last week from a number of sellers, and some very good prices were realized. It was pretty exciting. It was interesting. And I don't know if I mentioned it or not yet, but we did post the all of the images that were in the Famille Rose video that we did a couple of weeks ago. All the images are now up on our blog site, so you can come over and look at them. I know a lot of you have, so thank you. And let's get started. By the way, it's a spectacular day here in Gloucester. Holy mackerel. 75 degrees, light sea breeze. It's wonderful. All right, here we are. This was one of the pieces that went through last week. It's a well-known pattern, Kangxi period plate. This is a particularly nice one, beautifully done. It was about 9 inches. They made these plates in a lot of sizes. They came in dinner sizes, and they also came in chargers. Some of them are quite large. This was a dinner plate size example, but beautifully done, good condition, and it did pretty well. It brought $473, which I think was a pretty reasonable price for it. It wasn't a big price, but it was a good price, and it's a very nice example, and it's a highly desired pattern. This plate was done quite a few times, and is well known to most collectors. Nice plate though. And then on to this was that dragon panel, that very nice dragon panel. It's interesting. It looks Chinese, but it was sewn very much like Japanese panels that are used with these sections. So it may have been woven and then sent to Japan, which is not unusual. All right, but it was a beautiful piece, and I think the price on it was pretty reasonable. $690. It had about 29 bids, got a lot of interest, but it was a good example. This came from a seller out in Duarte, California. Has this guy that we see periodically. He gets some pretty good things. That was a nice thing. I like the colors of it. I like the design. Beautifully done. And then on to these. These were small. This was a small pair of sort of Famille double dragon moon flasks. And these flasks, a lot of you know, can come in a variety of sizes, from being 7 or 8 inches tall all the way up to 20 inches tall. We've seen them even bigger than that. A year or so ago, I think there was one on here that was about 24 inches tall. It was a very big flask. These were fairly small, and they have these sort of Noyona Straits color palette to them, the pinks and turquoise and all that business. And but they did very well, and these weren't that big. These were only about 8 inches in height. They brought $872, but pairs are highly desirable always, and they did just fine. But it was a nice little pair of vases. And then on to this was that Ming bowl, a nice simple Ming bowl. We included this in the newsletter because I figured it would bring about what it brought, a couple of $100. But it's a case where if you like early stuff and you don't have an endless wallet, there's a whole bunch of Ming wares that can be bought that are authentic, 16th century items, and they won't break the bank, and you can build a pretty good collection without going into your pension. Here's an image of the bottom of it, and this bowl just went for $202. All right, perfectly nice bowl, and they can be bought reasonably. This came from Dr. Godfrog over in the UK. He gets nice things. He's a good dealer over there, and we feature him fairly often. Then there was this good-looking Chinese export card case with a monogram on it, but good quality. Probably might have been made in Shanghai or Canton, but nice quality all the way around. A little bit of wear, which is good. I like the wear on these. I hate to see them if they're too pristine. I like it shows that they've been around. Somebody actually probably put cards in it and used it. All right, and it went for a good price. It went for $313, which isn't bad. It was stamped and by the maker, and nice quality. Good quality piece of silver. If you haven't decided what you want to collect these days, you might think about collecting Chinese silver. It's an interesting stuff. And then there was this. This was a big vase. They should have put something in the photograph with this to show how big it is, because the scale of the drawing on it on these vases is the same. Sort of interesting whether the vase is 8 inches tall or 2 feet tall. This vase was over 2 feet tall. This vase was 63 centimeters, as I recall. Nice big Nyonya Straits piece. And it brought $2,550, which wasn't bad. But I think it might have done a little better if they'd put something in the picture to illustrate the size of this. This is a particularly large vase. All right, there it is. Okay. And on to this. This was that really interesting piece of Japanese pottery I mentioned last week. I thought this was just great. Very unusual. It looks like it was made out of burlap and cloth and then painted. It's not. It's a texturization process that was put into the pottery. And it covers not only the center of the plate, but the rim as well has the same sort of feature to it. Here's the center of it. And it looks just like burlap. It's really amazing. And I've not seen this. And they did the same on the rim, this nicely reticulated rim. And I don't think this went for too much money. $389 for a pretty rare piece of Satsuma. I thought that was just great. All right, now on to this, the Inro with the dragons on it. A nice piece of Japanese carving, boxwood probably, but beautiful patina. Great surface on this. This was a nice, very, very gutsy Inro. Nice color, nice detail, and good age to it all the way around. Good looking thing. And it did fine. It brought $718, and I think it deserved it. That was a very nice thing. I love wood with old surfaces on it. If you don't have the old surface, you don't have much. And this was a nice piece. This is from a seller over in the UK that gets a lot of, they're the ones that, these are the same sellers that have had all the nifty little Netskis and small carvings and some good little bronzes. And then hopping over to this. This was something that Josh Chamberlain had up, Juice 1499. And this was a very nice plate. This was a big plate, too. This thing was like 17 inches in diameter. It was Jiajing period. I don't know why Josh didn't put it up as Jiajing. It very clearly is. It's not Wan Li, in my opinion. The decoration, the way, the color tonality of it. And this was a big plate. How wide was this? What was it? 17 inches. This was a really, really big plate. And it brought $4,305. But I think this was a very good buy. I loved this thing. This was a nice plate. And I love the birds around the outside on the back. Lots of good, obvious, and honest chattering lines radiating from the center. Here's a close-up of it with that very dark outlining and then that sort of soft blue filling in and these sort of floating elements, very typical the Jiajing period. And as I said, it brought $4,305, but I thought it was a nice piece. We're going to go through a few of the things that he had, and then we're going to look at some things that Qing period had and some other stuff. All right, and then he had that very big pair of unusual Famille Rose vases. They were up to $5,000 or $6,000 last week, and I thought they'd do pretty well at the end, and they did. They ended up jumping up to about $16,000 for the pair. These big pairs with these freestanding figures on them, even though this is a sort of mid-late 19th century pair, very gutsy. And we looked at the bottoms of them. That's what the bottoms of these look like. But nice quality decoration. And these figures sitting on the lotuses are very unusual. And about $16,100 for the two. But these were big, too. These were 24 inches tall. Okay. And then on to this. This was, I think, the last thing of his we have was the Kangxi dragon plate. On the inquiry program here, we had a number of people ask about this plate. They wanted to know what we thought of it, and I told every one of them it's a nice Kangxi example and a very unusual, very rare palette. This palette does appear on bowls, but not on chargers very often, and this thing was big. It was 15 inches in diameter. It was not a dish. This was, again, another charger, very nice quality, and it was Kangxi Marken period. So it's rather unusual when you have a rare pattern and you have a Marken period example. It did have a hairline in the rim, which didn't bother me in the least because the pattern on this is so unusual and beautifully done. It was a good piece. And it ended up selling for $7,899, which I think was perfectly reasonable. How big was this? I want to double check. 16.25 inches. That was a big, big plate. All right, I think that was also a very good buy for the week. And then over to this was the that dandy little dragon late Ming incense burner with the mass on the end. And you notice this one is just loaded with with old polish. This thing has been polished, obviously, over the years. And people often forget that when they polish something, the bits of polish get into these cracks, and until it really dries out, you don't even notice it's there. And you end up with these green outlines. A little warm water and a toothbrush will probably get those out. But at any rate, this did very well. It brought $6,778, but a very nice little incense burner. I like that. All right. And then over to this. This was one of the great buys of the week. There were two of these up. And these vases are late Ming. And they're not, he had them listed as Dauguang, but they're not. These were late Ming vases, and many, many years ago, prior to a lot of scholarship that has gone on, these vases you can find in old books that were thought to have been originally from the Sung dynasty or the Yuan dynasties. They thought for the longest time, and there was a huge collection of these here in the Boston area that belonged to the Bernats, and they thought for years it was all Sung and so forth. And then as it came out that they weren't Sung, the Bernat family, the Bernat collection is one of the great porcelain collections. The two Bernat brothers, one collected one period, one collected the other. It's a long story, but at any rate, they sold all of them. There were about 30 of them in their collection. They dumped them as soon as they found out they were all Ming. They found the kiln site. But still, these are Ming. These are 6 or 8 inches tall. These same vases can be found that are over 15 inches tall as well. And this just sold for $209, and there was another one, virtually identical, if it wasn't identical, sold for about $135. They were about the same height, within a quarter inch. And but this had been originally in the Ashmolean Museum, and it may have been deaccessioned around the same time that the Bernat family got rid of theirs when they found out they weren't Sung. But at any rate, that's the story, the backstory behind these. But it's still a heck of a nice piece of Ming pottery, and can be bought for a reasonable price. But if you look it up in Hobson, some of these old books, they referred to them back then as being Sung, much older. All right, but scholarship has moved on, and they've had to rewrite a lot of history books in the last 40 years. Okay, and then on to this really nice looking Guangxu period dish with bats on it. It was a very nice plate. This was something Qing period had up, a good one. I got some inquiries on this as well. I thought it was absolutely fine for the period. And as a matter of fact, there was a pair of these that I was aware of that sold about 10 or 15 years ago at Christie's. And did just fine then, and I think they brought $4,000 for the pair, and this one did just fine too. It brought $2,619. All right, it's a fairly well-known pattern in Guangxu dishes, but they use this very nice, very warm yellow in the middle, and that's something you can look for on these. But they're tricky to date because they are making copies of these, so be careful. But that was a nice one. All right, and then on to this. This was something else that Qing period had, and I also got a lot of inquiries on these. I had this in the newsletter last week. This was a really, really, really pretty Mae Ping Vase. Beautiful glaze on it. At a distance, you'd be hard-pressed to argue that it wasn't Kangxi period until you picked it up and look at it, just because the glaze on it was so well done. The fading of the glaze, the thickening of the glaze at the foot. The bottom of the foot underneath, once you look, you know it's later, probably a late 18th, early 19th century, late Qianlong, early Jiajing period example, but beautiful quality. A lot of people like this vase, just great color and shape. $2,730 it went for, and I think that was a good buy. I liked that a lot. That was a very pretty jar. Pretty piece of porcelain. And he also had this transitional, where it goes on period, double gourd vase with flowers on it. Very nicely done, beautiful color, beautifully potted, nice white paste. This stuff is a very interesting transitional period. And it brought $3,338, which is right on the money for this. If you check the London sales catalogs where these most often turn up, or over in the Netherlands these turn up, that's sort of the sweet spot for these. Sometimes they bring a little more, sometimes they bring less, but generally in the $2,800 to $4,000 range, sort of the price range for these. All right, you can buy them from dealers from at those prices as well. So, keep that in mind. You don't always get the best buy on the internet off an auction. You can sometimes go to a good dealer and just talk to them, get to know them, and they'll sell it to you for the same price. All right, and now over to let's see here. There, over here. That's just a quick peek at our watch list. What's going on? All right, there is this. This is closing on Tuesday of this week. This is a great Chinese export fan. If you're a fan collector, I'll have it in the newsletter. You're going to come and check this out. It's enamel decorated. We've had these before with gilding. These are pretty rare fans. All right, and very nice decoration around the blades on the outer edge. You got these figural scenes, very nicely done, and we'll see how this does. I think it should bring, $1,100 to $1,500 pretty comfortably. These are very rare fans. All right, normally they use ivory. This is gilded with enamels, and it's up to $300. It's got 4 days to go. Also ends on Tuesday. And this is a seller in Brussels. In Spain. That we keep an eye on. They specialize in fans of all kinds. They get some nice things, and they do get Chinese fans fairly often. All right, and then on to this is this very nice-looking hat stand. This is a late 19th century hat stand, but I found that the dragon on this is just beautifully done into the crackle, and you notice how they did a very good job of keeping the crackle out of the blue and white area. All right, it shows up in the up in the wisps of the whiskers and so forth, but the rest of it, it's pretty much out of it. There's a couple of broad crackles here, but not the fine crackle, which can be disturbing to see. It sort of distracts your eye. Here's a picture of the bottom, very typical with that dry glaze thing highlighting the sort of apocryphal rain mark, but nice looking. This is a good looking hat stand. This closes this week. It ends on Monday. It's got just one bid. It's got 3 days to go. It's a very nice looking piece. He has this listed as a brush pot. He doesn't know it's a hat stand. That's okay. Honest mistake. And then onto this is another one of these Noyonia straights. This is a hair tray or a little almost like a little opium tray. Beautifully done. Nice color. Here's a picture of the back of it, late 19th century, but very good color. And we'll see how this does. It's up to $273. It's got 23 bids. And who's selling this? Who the heck is this? Seller over in the UK has this. Okay. And it ends on Thursday. It will be in the newsletter, so you can come over and look at it. And then our friend Freak over in the Netherlands, I guess he's cleaning out closets. Here's an instant collection for you, including some Noyonia straights pieces, some blue and white pieces. I suspect some of them might have little bangs and dents in them and so forth, but nifty display. Good job. I like that. There's a Ming piece in there. All right. And that closes on Sunday. It's up to $202, but what a nice little grouping. You got, how many pieces do you have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces, all for the price of one. There you go. And we'll see how they do. And then there's this nice big rose mandarin punch bowl, very nicely done, good color. The photography is a little bit dark on it. Here's the side of the bowl, a couple of nicks in it, but check it out. It's a good-looking bowl, and it's got that continuous, sort of figural scene, landscape scene, interior scene going around the outside. It's got 1 day and 11 hours. It's up to $160. Nice looking thing, though. Good looking bowl. And then this closes in a couple of days, too, is this nice big Kangxi disc with a flattened rim on it. This is a very, very pretty dish. This is something Hans, a friend over in the Netherlands, has up as well. This is a big one, though. It's 38 centimeters, so it's about 15 inches in diameter. He calls it 18th century. He's being conservative. That's a Kangxi. It looks like a Kangxi foot rim to me. Yeah, it's Kangxi. But nice looking plate. And we'll see how that does. It's up to $57. Why is that? Hold on. Is it repaired? Oh, he's going to check it. Good condition. Tiny bit of warpage. That's it. That's a good plate. All right, go over and leave. Somebody should leave a bid on that immediately for about $600 or $700 just to get it into reality. It closes on Sunday. All right, And then over here, this ends in the next few days too, is this nice Kangxi period. My favorite subject, horses. I love the way those are placed, sort of prancing, floating around. This closes, it closes in 8 days on the 16th. It's up to $28. This is from our friend, the Ceramics and Collectibles, the folks at Shangri-La. Had that up. There's some nice things. They're also selling, I think they're also selling things on Katawiki now. Same dealer. They're branching out. And then this very pretty Famille Rose, the battle scene, big vase, latter 19th century, but nice size. And this will be in there. This closes on Tuesday. It's got a reserve on it, but this is coming from Grand Pip, and he's pretty reasonable on reserve, so we'll see. And this is our friend Michael up in Canada has this up. This is a very nice old bronze. Again, you see the sort of buildup of crud of polish around the face, around the mash. You see that a lot. A bit of it on the base and the mark, but this is a nice old late Ming bronze to my eye anyway. It sure looks good to me. Here's a picture of the shot, the side of it. There it is, nice old surface on it. In the U.S., you find these, they often polish them. This is not unusual. You remember we looked at a polished bronze earlier. Here's another one. If you leave it alone for about 20 years, it'll look absolutely fine. It'll go back to a different color. But I don't mind them when they're polished a bit because they were actually meant to be. All right, it's only the modern day collectors that like them dull and heavily patinated. In the day, these Ming bronzes were polished to within an inch of their lives to look like gold. All right, and this one's up to $530. Closes on Monday, and it ought to bring about 5 times that. That's a nice bronze. That's a good bronze. It's got a good shape. Like that one. And then over here is the Inro. This is the seller over in the UK that had those beautiful little carved wooden Inros, Inro earlier with the dragons. Here's another one with gold on lacquer. Japanese, obviously. Very nice quality. And we'll see how that does. It's up to $338. It ought to double that by the end probably, but it's a nice looking thing. And if you like Netskis and Inros and Okimono and all those great little fabulous sort of Japanese things, Edo, early Meiji period, this is something to look at. It's very nice. And then lastly, I want to show you this. This is a really nice Kotani plate. I'm going to put this in the newsletter this week. This is a great Kotani dish. I love this thing. And I came across it. Very fine work on it. Here's a detail of it. It's got some wear in the middle, obvious wear on enamels with these roosters running around on it. But just a great-looking dish. Very nice dish. It's got no bids. The opening bid on it is $259. It's 39 centimeters in diameter, so it's about 16 inches, roughly, 15, 16 inches. This is a very nice plate. I want you to see the back of this thing. There it is, all right? And there's the mark. It's done in the Yoshida style. If it's not, exactly by Yoshida, it's certainly done in the manner. And it's certainly worth 39 centimeters, certainly worth an opening bid of $259. So if you're a Japanese collector, I hope you take a look at that. I'll put that in the newsletter this week too. All righty. And that's about it for the week. There's some things going on here that we'll be getting into in the next few days. And I want to thank all of you for all the inquiries this week. It was really interesting. I got to see some things I didn't even know were on the market over in Austria at an auction over there, and a nice sale in Australia. But at any rate, it's always fun. And some good selections from some people, the things they're going to look at to try to buy. Wow. And thanks a lot. And if you haven't subscribed to us yet on YouTube, please do. And if you don't get the weekly newsletter where all these things come from, come over to bidamount.com and sign up for it. You'll get notified on Friday when we update the page and with the latest week. And, of course, the things that go into the eBay Today page as well. All right. Everybody have a great weekend. I'm going to be off doing things with family and whatnot. And I hope you get out there, maybe get to an auction or two, find something you love, bring it home, go to a good spot for it. And that's it. All righty. Enjoy the spring, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.